Welcome back to another video. This is a computer I got for free. You may be wondering, how did I get this for free? Well, at a thrift store in the donation center, someone opened up their car ahead of me and they started getting rid of some TVs. But then I saw the back of this computer tower. I wasn't entirely sure what computer it was, so I went over and asked, hey, can I have it? And they were glad to give it to me. And the thrift store probably would have charged like $50 for it, which I think is just way too much for this computer. It also came with this NEC monitor. I wasn't able to test it because I don't have a power supply for it, but it's pretty cool. It has some like touch sensitive buttons and built-in speakers. I would definitely like to try this out once I get a power supply for it. But I was disappointed when I quickly found out it was a Dell Dimension 4600. You may ask, why am I disappointed by that? I have that same exact computer. So I have two of the same computers. Almost. As you probably noticed, it's missing one of the optical drives, or a blanking plate. And this just has a CD-ROM drive, no DVD drive. So they probably took it out. But this floppy drive was sitting in the bay right there. Because the one from here is completely gone. The original is gone. And I can tell this is not the original because it has a front bezel on it that wouldn't match that. Usually there's a plastic latch here, but that's missing on here, so you can just pop it open. And here's a look inside. You can see it's missing that heat shroud that goes over the fan in the CPU cooler. So it probably was giving them thermal problems. So their solution was to add a fan down here. It works pretty well. It blows out quite a bit of air, but I don't know if it really solves that problem. The air is kind of warm that comes out of it, so it must be doing something. And because of the two vents in the back, a lot of the air comes through that drive bay right there. And as you can see, the floppy drive bracket is completely gone. And this is the cord that plugged into the floppy drive. So I actually never tested this floppy drive, so we might do that in this video. And I was surprised to find out that a 140 gigabyte IDE hard drive, which is kind of big for an IDE hard drive, I think. And it works pretty good. But for some reason, the connector that it was originally plugged into wouldn't allow it to boot, which might be one of the reasons why they got rid of it, besides it's just old. So I plugged the cable in that would go into the secondary hard drive, and it booted right up. It was a pretty boring install of XP with nothing on it besides 2 users and some antivirus. I switched out the coin cell battery, I think. The original one still worked, but you can never be too safe with those. And there's actually 2 SATA ports on here. It came with 1 gigabyte of RAM, but that's not the only nice upgrade that this thing had. With that added fan, you can definitely tell when it's on. And when I first turned it on, it spat out a bunch of fish food. I'm not entirely sure what that could be. But when I booted it up, I was comparing the BIOS between this one and the one I already had, just to see if there was any differences. And the one thing I noticed that was different was under CPU information, it had hyperthreading. It was disabled by default, but I enabled it. And there's a noticeable difference between this and the one I already have. But since this one is in such rough condition, missing parts, and it's a little iffy at times actually, I might end up swapping the CPU. So I have the better CPU in my kind of complete system here. And this would just be a parts system, I guess. Because there's actually some weird quirks with this. So I tried booting Windows 7 off of a USB because, of course I did. And it would take forever to even load up the installer. But once I actually got into the setup, it wouldn't detect the IDE hard drive at all. It worked just fine on this computer, but on this one, it just wouldn't work. I also tried Vista, and that didn't work. So I ended up just installing Windows XP again, which works really good. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try burning a DVD or something, but I think I might just swap the CPUs. Another thing I might also swap is this Dimension 4600 badge around the power button, because it went missing on this one quite a few years ago. Here it is all booted up, and here it has 1 gigabyte of RAM and the 2.80 gigahertz Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. It's very snappy. It's a pretty good Windows XP computer. So I have the floppy drive hooked up for the first time. So let's head over to Explorer, my computer, and let's see if it'll read this floppy disk. All right. Ooh. It doesn't sound happy. Maybe it doesn't work. Which is weird because it's like they added the floppy drive again like they really needed it for some reason. You know, because in this era of computing, you know, floppy drives weren't really mandatory. They were just kind of a legacy option. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be working. I'll try a different floppy disk if this one didn't get damaged. The disk in drive A is not formatted. Hope it's not. Yeah, it looks fine. I'll try another one. And wouldn't you know, it actually works. I tried a different floppy disk and it can read the files off of it. It made a pretty nasty squealing sound when I pushed it in, but it seems to be working now. Can I read the document? Yes, a very meaningful document. So I guess this works. It's kind of iffy, but it works. Doesn't sound very healthy, so I don't know how good it is for the floppy disk, but... Oh, and the hard drive is actually 150 gigabytes. Pretty good for this era of computer. So that'll conclude this video. If you'd like to see a more in-depth look of this computer, I have a video on that computer linked in the description. And I will probably upload a video in the future of swapping the CPUs between these two. I never actually pulled the CPU off of that one, so the thermal paste is probably pretty crusty. So yeah, that one will have hyperthreading. This one will be a part system. Thank you for watching. Bye.